So hello everyone, thank you so much for joining us this evening. My name is Isabella.
Hi everybody, and my name is Isabella. Steve, sorry. What do we get properly?
And today we'll be your MCs, except when our wonderful chapbook co-launchers are going to be up here reading, in which case we'll be your MNOCs.
I don't think I even get that. It's such a bad joke and I don't quite understand. Do you understand that joke? No. Isabella's not one. Carry on. That's a terrible joke.
Before we begin, I would like to humbly acknowledge that this event takes place on the traditional, unceded and ancestral territory of the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish Peoples. We're grateful to be here, but recognize that most of us are here because of historical and ongoing injustices and colonial violence against Indigenous peoples. For those of us who are settlers of stolen land, we have an ongoing responsibility to educate ourselves about the histories of the land we occupy and pledge ourselves to work to support Indigenous communities and push for change. For everyone here, we carry with us our individual relationship and responsibilities to place, our stories of movement and migration, of settlement and unsettled realities. Acknowledging the land is an everyday and lifelong process, but the soil on which we stand is a sentient life force that at all times teaches us, mentors us, collects us, and supports us. And so I would like to encourage everyone here to reflect, educate themselves, listen, and learn from the rightful owners of this land for time and millennia, and give back the gift of reciprocity.
Thanks, Isabella. That's really, really well said. Thank you. Just some housekeeping notes and things. This event is being recorded right now. So. That's not what we mean by recording. For recording. Put that away. I taught her in like how many different classes? 5 classes. This is sort of normal for how that goes. Well, the most exciting thing is we're here to celebrate 2 amazing chapbooks by Natalie Lim. So we are very excited about that. We are going to introduce them momentarily after we do a few more things here. They will both read, and then we'll have time for a Q&A at the end. So store up your Q's, and hopefully they will have some A's. And then we can mill around and enjoy the little bits of food that are back there. Fruit and sweets. Yes.
Yeah, and there will be a table of chapbook sales from Rahila's Ghost. So, of course, please check that out and support our authors as much as possible.
Exactly. Now, I think you're all face masks, but we just want to remind that in accordance with the announcement by the provincial health officer, face masks are now optional in indoor spaces, public spaces here at SFU. But we encourage mask use on all our campuses, and particularly in spaces where we are in close proximity. What are you doing?
You said face mask.
That is not the right kind of mask, Isabella. I'm pretty sure that this is not, going to save anybody's lives. Get a proper mask on. Okay, you do. Right. Okay. Thank you for that distraction. So we thought what we would do is we're going to both read a poem.
Yes.
I'm going to read a poem, then Isabella's going to read a poem. You want your poem? Oh, nice. Okay. And we're also going to swear a lot in profane, but sometimes that happens. I was receiving an award once, and I thought I would write a poem for that moment as an acceptance speech, and I wrote this. It's called Fucking Poetry. Fucking poetry? I have given you everything. The ache of each arcing curl, slash, and curve of letter form, forming words from mere sounds as round and round anxiety you whispered, more and more anxious. Go, you are healed, you are free, go. Fucking poetry. And where are we now? In the long silence of not reading. We create, writing minds, texting nothing but invisible wind bodied forth in outflung boughs of electric currents. I'm a sucker forever for the wallflower, for paths diverging in snowy woods, and the sharp cry of the killdeer, the merest whisper. You are poetry. Fucking poetry. Fucking poetry. Even in the apocalypse, you are writing me, because this is what we did the last apocalypse too, singing into the fires which kept some few remaining coals glowing long into the aftermath. The shattered night we sing through, and so we go on singing, because we are poetry too, and this is what we have, poetry. Fucking poetry. I didn't have my glasses on, that was hard to read though. And, as a reply,
and I wrote this poem in response to this while I was going through this moving housing crisis, couldn't get furniture from IKEA. It's called Fucking IKEA. Fucking IKEA. I have given you everything. The ache of each round, the room curls sploosh on your beds, bad mattresses, and curve of the convoluted aisle forms like a grey warehouse. Forming cheap wood from mere meatballs. As round and round lineups you whisper, more and more anxious people around your tiny dining hall. Will there be a serving of cranberry sauce left for them? Or will you have run out of that too? Go. You're out of stock. You're free. Go. Fucking IKEA. Make it permanent, I dare you. And where are we now? In the long silence of not having furniture, we create in our uncomfortable bodies, texting nothing but invisible Swedish couches. We bodied forth, pretended to bring home in our furnitureless living room, in outflung bows of electric currents. I'm a sucker forever for the E with two dots. The paths diverging with arrows in fake snowy decor, and the sharp cry of the killdeer in the stuffed animal box. The child being lifted out of the display bed he's sleeping on. The mirrors whisper, you are IKEA. Fucking IKEA. Fucking IKEA. Even in the apocalypse, you are killing me. Because this is what you did the last apocalypse too. Fading into the out-of-stock labels which kept some few remaining hopefuls glowing. Long into the aftermath. The shattered night I found out Billy bookshelves were gone. We shop through, and so we go on shopping. Because we are IKEA too. And this is all we have. IKEA. Fucking IKEA.
Billy bookshelves will be back in stock in 3 weeks. I think you can pre-order them now and pick them up later. You're going to introduce somebody.
Yeah, so after that premium piece of literature from both of us, I am so excited and just honored to introduce my wonderful friend, Natalie Lim. Natalie is a Chinese-Canadian poet living on the unceded traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh Peoples. She is the winner of the 2018 CBC Poetry Prize and Room Magazine's 2020 Emerging Writer Award, with work published in Art Poetry Magazine, Best Canadian Poetry 2020, and elsewhere. Arrhythmia is her debut chapbook, and I should say she's also the most amazing friend, and I love meeting her on campus for lunch, and she's also one of the most beautiful poetry readers, when she's up here reading, that I've ever experienced. So every time hearing her is just such a gift and pleasure. So yeah.
Hey friends, I feel like the bar has been set very high. Thank you, Isabella. I was promised a comedy routine today, but I didn't know the content of the comedy routine, and this is. Thank you. Also this gift. I'm just gonna stare at it the whole time. Yeah, we're here to celebrate Chapbooks. This is my book. That's a weird sentence to say out loud. And I'm excited to share some poems tonight. So thank you all for being here. One of the cool things that I learned while putting together this book, through collecting all of the poems I've written and sorting through them and trying to put them together, is that I just write about the same thing over and over again, which is good for a book because you call it a theme, and then you're smart. So this first poem I want to read is what I think about as the real thesis of this book. And it's called The Science of Holding On. Newsweek tells me that time travel might be possible if we can first locate an object with infinite density. I Googled infinite density and learned how the laws of physics refuse to comply in certain places, like black holes, like old memories. Could something like that live here? I see the astronauts towing it home on a string, their padded hands placing it gently on a pedestal. We might go to look at it on a Friday night, pay an entrance fee to watch scientists make history obsolete as they shout over the mechanical drone of their progress. We've done it, they'd say, faces beaming through bulletproof glass. And now we will see the future. The next morning, my local paper will report the most impressive scientific breakthrough of the 21st century. I will flip past to the weather as I reach for a cup of coffee, reach again to hang a weight on my hands, anything to slow the ticking. Keep the nectarines unripe, uneaten, not soft enough yet to bruise. I am selfish, see? Everyone I love is now. I text, pray, hug, call, check the clock to make sure, still here, still here, still here. I like to call that poem the thesis of the book because it's really a book about holding tight to the people you love, and also sometimes the dogs you love and the robots you love and the planet that you love. Speaking of love, my sister is here tonight. This is going to be fun. One of the things I love about my sister is that I get to embarrass her in public sometimes to get back for all the bad photos she posts of me on my birthday. Being real, I guess, we spent a lot of quarantine stuck together in a house, yelling about everything and anything there was to possibly yell about. And sometimes we wanted to murder each other, as sisters do, but also that I was very grateful for her during that time, which I'm going to say now because you're not going to love me after this poem is done. All right. This poem is called Ode to Be a Dog, Begging for a Piece of Chicken from the Instant Pot. From my sister. We couldn't believe it at first. A whole chicken, cooked through in 20 minutes, overcooked, actually, because the recipe was wrong. Or we were. But here we are, attempting to carve it. We feed scraps to the dog, juice dripping off the cutting board, counter collecting grease as we eat, stomp around the kitchen, watch 8 TikToks and 12 dance routines, discuss your psychology lecture, fights with friends, musical theater, the evils of capitalism, redacted, our future weddings, Sean and Casey, each subject stumbling tipsily into the next, in a way that makes sense to us now, but won't in 10 minutes. Here's the thing, Amanda. I know you wanted a funny poem, but I don't know how to write those. And besides, we both know you're the funny one here. So instead, let me say, I don't think I'll ever quite believe that in this world where a chicken can be cooked in the time it takes us to belt ear-shattering high school musical covers, in this awful, dazzling world that you love so much you will never stop trying to hold it together with your bare hands, I get a whole life with you in my corner. I get you embarrassing me in public, and making fun of my love life and posting bad photos of me on my birthday. I get someone who gets me, all of me, even the parts I can't face in the mirror, who never stops digging for forgiveness, who laughs with me until we can't breathe or remember why we were laughing in the first place. And I'll be honest, Amanda, sometimes I'm wrong in my poems. I'm not wrong today. I want this written down on the record, passed down to our children and their children, carved into the annals of history for aliens to find long after we have turned to dust. Blade Runner 2049 is, in fact, an extremely boring movie, and nothing you ever say will convince me otherwise. Love you. Got a couple more for you tonight. I have 2 poems in this chapbook that go in a pair. They're called The Opportunities. One is happy, one is very sad. I usually pick one or the other to read at a reading, sort of depending on the mood, but it's my reading, so I'm going to read both of them tonight because I can. Thank you. Love you all for enabling me. As some of you may remember, a couple years ago, Opportunity, the Mars rover from NASA, was declared dead, unfortunately, after many years of faithful service. And the whole world went through this collective period of mourning for this robot, which I found so interesting and strange and special. And so I wrote 2 poems about it. First one's called Elegy for Opportunity, and it's after Matthew Rower. On a planet far away, all reddish rock and dust storm, opportunity lies still. This robot who just turned 15, who never knew what a birthday was, who will never understand that there are people on Earth grieving her cold metal frame. There is something so cool, so human, about mourning a being reprogrammed and exiled to space with no means of returning. We knew she would die one day, alone in a rested sea, but we are tender even in our cruelty, so we grieve. We write poems in her name. Our last message to her was a song. Do you know that? A song. There is nothing lonelier than the little Mars rover, no longer chirping back to base about Earth and rocks and maybe life. Nothing lonelier than us, creating things we know we will sing to sleep one day. Nothing lonelier than thinking of that robot, sitting still and silent now, on the shores of a planet we promised she could call home. And Elegy for Opportunity, Part 2. In 50 years, a Martian wind blows the right amount of sand off Opportunity's small form. The sun, wiser now, redder now, charges her battery just enough for her to wake and whir, click back to life. Opportunity, we waited a long time. Opportunity, we might not be there to pick up the phone. Still, I have good news. There is much left to discover. There is much to touch, analyze, break down into its most basic parts. Here are the parts you should know. We didn't mean to leave you. We were coming. We tried. We ran out of time. Can I ask? Is the earth still green and blue? Or are we rested over sand and storm, just like the planet we sent you to? So few of us got your perspective. So few of us had any perspective at all. I wonder if the songs still rattle in your head. We played them for you while you slept. Songs about sunshine and surviving the night. all we ever wanted for you, all we ever wanted. Be honest. Will you mourn us, opportunity? Even after what we did to you and the earth and ourselves and each other, if I listed the isms, wrote down our sins, I could stack those papers into a staircase long enough to lead you back home. I know you never saw the sins. You never saw the art, the dancing, the other machines we built and named and taught to do what we couldn't, but you heard the music, didn't you? We made so many beautiful things to ease the strangeness of being in these bodies. Did they survive? Did any of them matter? Opportunity. Listen. Listen. You matter. You have your body back. Go explore and tell us what you see. We'll be there if we can, when we can. The next time you hear from us, we'll be singing. This next poem is about a person I also love and also love to embarrass in public. It's my best friend Tina. She's also here. Tina and I escaped to New York together in the summer of 2019, just before the plague. And it was our first time traveling together, and we were really worried we were going to come out of it not friends, but we survived. We did it. And I wrote this poem for her. It's called Fun Facts for Tina. 1. We walked through Central Park, crickets chirping so loud that they don't sound real when you ask, didn't you have a bag of souvenirs? I did, and now I don't. Where did you have it last? We can call, and you tilt the world back onto its axis like you always do. 2. The train stops at 110th Street, and a man on board says, sorry to bother you, but I am so hungry. Does anyone? I stare at my feet while you dig through pockets, hold out coins, smile like you mean it, and suddenly everyone is looking for something to give. The girl across from us reaches out with a mandarin orange. It reflects your light like the smallest sun. 3. We walk through Central Park on a humid summer night, dodging cyclists on pedestrian paths. One ruffles our clothes in his wake, and we want to yell something rude, but we don't. Of course, we don't. And besides, our breath is better used for laughing. I can't remember if I said I love you, but I felt it so loud it had to be real. The T-Rex might have had feathers, you tell me, early ones called microfilaments. I consider that beast, all myth and muscle, burgeoning wings just catching the breeze, deep in its DNA, in its heart of hearts. It knew, it must have, that it was born to fly. I couldn't launch the book without reading Arrhythmia, so we are going to do that, I promise. We'll get your money's worth. This event is free, I don't know why I said that. But I do want to tell a small story, which is that Arrhythmia is a story of love for family, but it's also the story of SFU English, and that's why I'm so grateful to have the department sponsoring this event. Back when I was first writing this poem, I was sort of like writing it for the contest, but I didn't really know where I wanted to take it. I was kind of stuck. And I came to my professor, Mike Everton, my English professor, and I said, Mike, can you look at this poem? And Mike was like, I don't touch poetry. Talk to Steve Collis. I did. And Steve took my early draft of the poem and made it so much better, and he just gave some incredible suggestions. So it's really special that he's here to help launch this book tonight. Through this poem also, I was able to meet and become friends with Isabella, who's been such a support and such a source of love for me over the years. I've been so talented and wonderful, and so I'm really grateful for the English department and for all the support they've given me. But I'm also grateful for my family, who's also here tonight. So this is a story about that. It's called Arrhythmia. In 1962, my grandparents left China. They stood together on the bow of a ship and watched the only shores they'd ever known melt into darkness, owning nothing but each other and the clothes on their backs. No, I'm sorry. That story is a lie. I mean, at least it might be. I mean that I've never asked how they got here, or what it was like in those early days raising 3 boys and a girl in a shoebox house in a broken glass city in a country whose valleys were still haunted by the driving of railway spikes, 1, 2, 1, 2, for miles on end. When I started school, I stopped speaking Chinese. I still know a little these days, Doje and Hopao, falling from my mouth to shatter on the dinner table while everyone pretends not to notice. They smile as I pick the shards out of my food, hide them under a napkin, breathe a sigh of relief when the waiter takes my shame away. Sometimes I wonder if my children will do the same. I wonder if my papa feels each stilted conversation like a brick through a Chinatown window, like a slur hurled from a moving car, like 1, 2, 1, 2 for years, for a lifetime, maybe. I miss hearing her call me by my Chinese name. Natalie, she says, each syllable so carefully deliberate, as she passes me dishes piled high with chow mein, hand-stuffed dumplings, the best of intentions, and I smile like always. Shake my head. Thank you. I'm full. Here is a true story. I was born in 1996 in a mid-sized house in a mid-sized city in a country that proclaims diversity, acceptance. Yes, I am from here. Yes, I mean here. I mean, how do you grieve something you never really loved to begin with? I mean, my grandmother calls me Natalie now. I stopped speaking Chinese when I started school, so all I know about China is my papa's hands. The distant echo of her pulse went to, like shattering, rebuilding, like turning foreign soil into survival, into homemade apple turnovers and summer afternoons in the back garden. Because of you, Papa, I have never been hungry. Thank you for what you have given. Look at all you have made. Oh, bow, Papa. Oh, bow. Dolce. Thank you.
Thanks, Natalie. That was so beautiful. I had like tingly scalp. Maybe not while that poem was going on. And I don't think my scalp should tingle because I'm trying to hold on to the little hair I have. that was really beautiful. Thanks so much. Okay. Big breath. The midpoint. On to the next poet. Just going to crank yourself, get excited again. This will be wonderful. It's my pleasure to introduce Kit McKeown. Played it for the first time tonight. That's awesome. Kit is a trans-masculine, non-binary writer living on the unceded territories of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. They are currently pursuing a master's in publishing degree at Simon Fraser University in this very building, which is awesome. You're like so local. That's crazy. They won the George McWhirter Prize for Poetry in 2020 and were shortlisted for Peach Mag's Gold in Poetry Prize. I love that, it's like so Olympic. Gold in Poetry Prize in 2019. Their poems have appeared or are forthcoming in Plenitude Magazine, Poetry Magazine, that's pretty cool, Room Magazine, that's even cooler, Peach Mag, Poetry's Dead, appeared in Bad News, which is the best title. Their debut chapbook, hold it up, kid. I Need Not Be Good, was released with Rahila's Ghost in March 2022. It's available right back there. Please welcome Natalie Lim.
Hi everyone. Can you hear me okay? Thank you. Thank you, Steve, for that lovely introduction. And God, Natalie, fucking poetry, dude. That's amazing. It's amazing. God, the love in your words is so deeply felt, and I almost cried thinking about the T-Rex wanting to be a bird. That's going to stay with me for a really long time. Thank you. Thank you for that. I'm just going to jump right in with the poem. The first one I'm going to read is called Gift of Desperation. I awake on my burning hillside and descend into the women's AA meeting in the boxing gym. I stink of late summer remorse and jellyfish guts. Last night, someone put MDMA in my wine, and as I became horizontal, I watched the sunset 1,000,000 times in an hour. I texted James, "Are you seeing this?" And he said, "Should I come over?" And it felt good to say nothing. The phantoms project slivers of light onto the punching bags. I want the power to make sense of things. I got drunk on my hillside all summer long. Summer wound my heart up and suspended it in twine. Or was the sun rising 1,000,000 times? Someone tells me my eyes are clearer, and it feels like floating face up in the ocean. Something whispers in my ear, a phantom. What does it mean to burn one's life down? Is it true what they say, that one becomes anew in the burning? Thank you. So, speaking of themes, you might have been able to tell that this book is all about recovery. It's about recovery from addiction, from abusive relationships, from life, you know. So there's a lot of raw material in these poems, and I'm really grateful that you're all willing to share them with me tonight. This next poem was published in Poetry Magazine, which is pretty cool. But what's really weird is Natalie and her roommate Chimmy told me that apparently this poem is really famous on Tumblr.com. I don't know if anyone is still on Tumblr.com or if anyone was ever on Tumblr, but it was very popular among millennials, question mark. And I spent a lot of time on it when I was a teenager, and apparently it's still going strong, and my poem is on it, and it's doing pretty well. It's making the rounds. This poem was written last summer, or the summer before, I think, when there was a really weird phenomenon happening in Vancouver where the wildfires were happening, so the sky was this really awful color that was really apocalyptic. And there was also this like infestation of moths called looper moths. And they were, yes, people who were here remember the moths. They were like always like clustered around like light posts and just like kind of all over the city, and it was very weird. So I wrote a poem about that. And also I'll mention, Natalie also has a looper moth mention in her book, which you can read if you buy both our books. I'm sorry.
I'm wrong. I love it.
Yeah, compare the moth references, you know? This poem's called Outbreaks. I search for God, but the sun is a penny. Looper moths form halos beneath every street lamp. Summer's ghostly curtains. Check the weather. Haze. I search for God, but the moon is gone. I search for comfort, and the eels come. They cross my meadow every twilight, up to 7 feet in length, traversing mountain napes with open, eager mouths. The fires heave them from the rivers. Now they curve themselves across the precipice of life towards black oceans. Haunted yellow eyes. Looper moths become a gentle cloud. I become an eel, then rethink it. I cough, reveal a wet moth. Some gray little heart. It's all hazy now. Pale as sun-bleached wood, I go forth. In a slant of moonlight, I search for comfort. The neon 24-hour fried chicken sign gleams behind the pines. I crawl in the moss. It is easy to find God. She is a cluster of eels beneath my palms. I ask of her, am I doing any of this life right? And she, softly, with her many mouths, says nothing. Thank you. I wrote most of these poems between the age of like 20 and 25, and it's interesting, 27 now, it's interesting looking back at these and, you know, kind of reflecting on what I was going through at the time. And this next poem is really kind of an interesting timestamp. I realized today is actually International Non-Binary People Day. Hooray, yes, hello. Hooray. Represent. And it's interesting because this poem is really about the time of struggle I really had when I was thinking about my identity and feeling really stuck about what the next right thing was to do. And so it's interesting, you know, to think of a poem as a moment in time and to get to read it again down the line and see how farther I've come. And I remember thinking that I would feel this way for a long time and that this was just it. And it's cool to recognize that there is time after that to be had. This one's called Poetics. I plant strawberries because I do not know what else there is to do with my body. I am tired of my body, but it beckons like the retired racehorse you ignore, which is to say, my dream body is Seabiscuit, blue mountains, breakdancing, a little white fang. I used to dream of a man with giant hands and deep voice who would carry me to bed when I couldn't make it. It is too late to turn back now. She whispers boyfriend to me, and my heart is a ringing bell. My dream body is a lemniscate made of ribbons, not unlike the miracle that is testosterone, which may not work for me because I fear second puberty, which is to say I fear being unlovable almost as much as I fear daily needles. Nonetheless, my dream body is a God only knows. I watch the befores and afters travel by, a prideful marching band. I observe because I never learned how. I observe from my dream body. Ungendered lovescape, plentiful, green-eyed, imminent. This next poem is about shame, and it's also about a horse, which is on the cover of the book, in case you haven't noticed. Of course, I've been literally showing it to you the whole time. And this poem wouldn't have been written without shame and also without my parents, who are here. They gave me an Xbox really randomly. I didn't ask for it, but they gave me an Xbox Christmas of 2019, and very shortly after the pandemic happened. And the, what?
Good timing.
Right? It was perfect, right? It was amazing. And one of the games they gave me with it was Red Dead Redemption 2, which is, I'm seeing some nodding, yes. For those who are not familiar, Red Dead Redemption 2 is the greatest video game ever made because you are a cowboy back in like colonial America, which is not great for a lot of reasons, but you get to just ride around on a horse and just do whatever you want. And it's amazing. And so that was a gift that was given to me by my family right before I had to stay inside for about 2 years. And during that time, I thought a lot about shame, and I thought a lot about stuff that I had no choice but to really think about as I was playing this game. And in the game, I should mention, there's a really rare horse you can get, and as a former horse girl, I got to collect all the horses, like you have to, right? So there's a really special horse that you can collect in the game, and this poem is also about her. This poem is called Shame is a White Horse. In the video game you love, you are a cowboy. You find her by the frozen lake on the mountain. It takes 2 nights to catch her. You kill wolves, chug cans of beans, crouch by campfires, breathe death. When you finally leap to her back, your winter coat glitches and flares out like great blue cowboy wings. With a scream, she storms across the valley for her lonely glacial life, and you press X to calm, press X to calm, press X to calm. You toss your saddle over her. She's beautiful and terrifying and the only one you could ever want, your quick black-eyed ghoul. You press the buttons that name her, make her your own. Gender these days is a virtuous cowboy who makes no eye contact and whispers bewildering sweetness in your ear. Last week, you ran into a woman in a nightclub. She said, "Do you remember me from that night in Montreal?" Your hands on the floor of the metro station, drunk and weeping, because that's what life used to be, blackouts and dirt. Tangle of nothing, ladder of fungus, soft pink grain labia, hands prism. She is beautiful, and her ears, oh. You press upstick to whistle for her, and she circles you like a silent hunger. You had drunk sex with a stranger in the cemetery. You laced fingers with hers, or was it God's? Or was it her silver mane? The stars blurred across the night. There is nothing wrong with death underneath and wind in the trees. I would give anything to be loved in this body. Imagine your shame as a pool of ink. Imagine your shame as the raven tapping across your roof. Imagine your shame as little plastic devil horns on your head. You, the cowboy, press X to brush her, and suddenly she shines like a great wet eye. There's no way to avoid it, but your cowboy contracts tuberculosis. It is the climax of the story in the video game you love. You flee your cowboy gang, turned mad with greed. She thunders up the mountainside, and all you hear is her breath. It is the climax of the story. There should be a forest fire. Instead, there's a mess of pixelated bluebells, and then she is shot in the chest under an indigo sky with jagged clouds. There is no way to avoid it. You press pause and check the book through. There is no way to avoid it. And still, you press X to revive, press X to revive, press X to revive. You write grief across the walls. Forgive the chewing of your hair, the sham of femininity, the cave wherein you ruin yourself. Forgive the nothingness and its offering of nothing. You play video games to live a different life. Close your cowboy eyes. Forgive yourself the mountains, the wolves. You, yes you. Curl yourself around her head. Whisper, thank you. There is heat lightning far away, cradling the meadow and also you. Your cowboy never used to stay still long enough for darkness, cool and beckoning, but now the heat and the night lay you flat. Distant thunderstorms crack open across the hills. For the first time, it is allowed to happen. At the edge of the trees, there is another white horse. The ghost waits for your saddle. This world exists for you, just for you. This next poem I wrote when I was at UBC doing the creative writing program, and everyone in my workshop really didn't like it. They were kind of like, kid, like, no. The main note that I received was that it was a bit overwritten. Like, there was a lot going on. It was a little bit unbelievable. Like, kid, this is a bit maximalist even for you. And I said, whatever. I'm gonna submit it anyway. And Room published it, so that means it was pretty good. And I just want to say that everything in this poem did actually happen. There is a moment I will describe where I enter a party and a woman asks me what my astrological sign is, and the reaction that she has is 100% true. This poem is called Cancer Poem. Love is a lunar contract. Intimacy is shucking a crustaceous thing. Two crabs holding pincers beneath some damp crag. A tidal pool love shack for two little wet things fucking on the floor of an apartment we do not rent. Says one small crab, I love your big strong hands. Honey, says the other, and boards the early seaplane. Crabs do not hold pincers the way we hold hands. Cancers love home and feeling emotions. I enter a party and a woman asks my sign. When I tell her, she scoffs in after-school special and walks away. Cancers love crying. A sea goat friend squeezes my hand across the table. I offer them my kidney. What a Cancer thing to do. The moon for a healed body, a breath of island. Cancers are the most codependent sign. My mother gives me 2 Cancer magnets. 1, an angry crab pinching a small fish. 2, the same crab lifting cartoon hearts into the air. I asked that woman at the party what her problem is, and she says, what? You gonna cry? I sport a vengeful and foamy mouth. I imagine a healthy kidney, which is the next right thing. I watch young boys tear the legs off of crabs and fling them into the sea. With a sweep of a great oceanic wing, I gather them in a pleasant armful. Honey, says one small crab, what time is it? A forever bath time. We swell into a lift, your body fresh from the pool, my crabful cradle of sweet and brackish lullaby, and a wave rolls us down to the sound of meteors and other crashing things. Thank you. So this is the last poem I'll read tonight. Before I do that, I just want to say thank you to all of you for being here. This is just such a beautiful space and such a beautiful group of people to be sharing these poems with, and I'm just really grateful to be here. Thank you. This poem is called I Need Not Be Good, and it's for my brother. The universe asks me to unbecome. I need not bring sorrow from my body. My brother writes me a letter from rehab in the desert. He writes that a camp dog got bit by a rattlesnake. We used to climb trees so high that our legs shook. When he left, the trees turned to shadows and life unbecame. Just yesterday, I wrote a reminder on my fridge to jump into the ocean with Kyla on Sunday. My pen dried after jump in, and now jump in menaces me all over my apartment. Jump in dinner, jump in Gossip Girl. My brother sold our Xbox for heroin and leapt through a door into the mountains. Once, someone I was in love with had written "take everything" on her front door, and so I did too. On my bedroom door, on my mirror, take everything. I bound my breast for the first time. I ate a bagel. I took what I could. And I need not be good to listen to Patsy Cline on the porch in July, to listen to the wind on the black water. My brother builds a fire with sticks and rocks somewhere that is not here. I accept such longings, and with them, the great mystery that is survival. The door into the mountains opens, and my thirsty mouth fills with snow. Thank you.